On today's haul, we're looking at the comics I picked up in November, which includes Black Friday deals, wishlist checkoffs, new releases, and the coolest omnibus cover I've ever seen.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video, we're talking about my November 2025 comic haul, which, like I mentioned in the little teaser, favorite omnibus cover of all time, the coolest one ever is in this. Got some new releases, because Marvel and DC hit me up, double up. Got some stuff that came in from a crowdfund. Ooh, got some smaller things, some little manga stuff. And there was Black Friday sales, not just from online retailers, but also my local comic shop. So we got some stuff in there. If you enjoy these comic hauls, which it seems like a lot of you do, hit the like button and subscribe to the notification bell if you haven't already. And also, if you only check out the comic hauls on the channel, go check out my month of comic videos I did where I covered DC Finest, Marvel Modern Epic Collections, Classic Epic Gaps, and DC Compact Comics. Those were fun, and it grew the audience on this channel quite a bit, so I'm very happy to see that. But let's get into the haul. We've got a lot to get through, and I don't need to be yapping at the top, because I'll be yapping throughout the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to start with something that's not a comic book, but it's still a book with art in it. I just wanted to kind of show this off. This is the Metroid Prime retrospective art book. This is specifically Metroid Prime 1 to 3, a visual retrospective. They did this because Metroid Prime 4 came out this week, and this came out in October, and I got it in November, so I was just going to kind of show it off a little bit. Also, if you like Metroid and you haven't seen it already, I just posted a guide to playing the Metroid games in story order, and if you like Metroid and haven't checked that out yet, I'd appreciate it if you did, because yeah, I don't usually do gaming stuff on the channel, if you guys notice, if you stick around long enough, but I do love me some Metroid, and this art book's great. It's got a lot of really cool pieces of art, obviously, from the games, but it has a lot of interesting producers' notes and comments from the people that worked on the games, and so if you're a fan of the series, there's a lot in here that you probably never knew about. There's a bunch of stuff I didn't know about. There's a lot of little details dropped in this. There was quite a few articles from Nintendo websites about details in this book, and so I really do like it. I just wanted to kind of show it off. I think I'll occasionally throw art books in when they're art books, because yeah, it's art, it's books, it's the closest thing to comics without a narrative. All right, let's get to comic books. Just kidding, I got a light novel. So this is One Piece Law's story. So One Piece being a comic itself, I thought let's include a light novel spinoff. This is, a light novel, which is basically a novel that's written a little lighter. Pretty easy reads, usually I find them to be. This is all about Trafalgar Law and his backstory, which we got a lot of his backstory in the Dressrosa arc of One Piece. But basically, this is the story of where we left off that backstory. So it kind of gives you a bit of a framing device of where we're at. But basically, the part where we saw him to how did he meet Beppo, Penguin, and Sachi and form his crew and eventually go out on the seas, that's essentially what the story is. And I thought it was fantastic. I really did. Sometimes these light novel spinoffs don't provide anything new or interesting, but this took me from already, Law was already one of my favorite One Piece characters to really enjoying the character even more, because I felt like they gave a lot of depth and meaning to some of the stuff that we don't really get a lot of focal time on. Specifically, like, we see quite a bit of Beppo, but not as much of Penguin and Sachi, and so I think it was kind of really cool to explore them more as characters, and kind of also go into, like, the meaning behind some of the stuff, like, where did he get his ship? Where did he get, his Jolly Roger symbol from and all that? And I think it's really, really cool the way they did that. So yeah, if you're a fan of One Piece and you're a fan of Law, you should definitely pick this up. High recommendation from me. Really enjoyed this. Okay, here's an actual comic book. Kaiju number 8, volume 14. Didn't realize this came out back in September. I saw it up at Barnes & Noble and I was like, wait, I didn't get 14 yet. Also, always loved the color pages. And then looked back into my notes and was like, oh, this came out back in September, and I just forgot to grab it. Whoopsies. I think it's part of the thing is because I've been keeping up with the series weekly through the digital chapters. I did not, little security tag still in it. I did not remember that I needed to pick this up, so I saw it, I grabbed it, that kind of thing. But yeah, Kaiju number 8, volume 14. This series is great if you love giant monsters, if you like humans fighting against giant monsters. If you're a fan of that genre, you'll probably enjoy this, and I really do like it. It just wrapped up recently, so the whole series will be coming out. I think there's I want to say there's either 16 or 17 volumes in total. But yeah, we're on 14 now, so we're getting closer. All right, next let's move to the non-Marvel and DC publishers. And let's start with the Dynamite Comics Thundercats Classic Years Collection. This was a book done through BackerKit, which is not Kickstarter, but was kind of a similar idea. BackerKit's a service that a lot of Kickstarters use for their the post-campaign stuff, like dealing with addresses and surveys and additional add-ons and late pledges goes through BackerKit. Dynamite decided to just run this straight through BackerKit and not Kickstarter, and they had multiple different versions of this Thundercats Classic Collection offered. There was this one with the classic cover. They had one with modern cover art. They had paperbacks in 2 volumes. They did a lot of different versions. I got the big hardcover. Now, the good part is that because this was successful, they are going to release a retail version of this. I think it's going to hit comic shops pretty soon. But basically, the book, I think, is the same. But you can see here, we've got Thundercats Classic Years Collection. It's got the classic Star Comics Thundercats run. So this is the Thundercats comic that Marvel published back in the 80s during the original cartoon, and it is the original tie-in comics to the cartoon. Interesting, the size on this. I do want to speak to the size. Where's an omnibus? All right, minor spoiler for later. Here's a Marvel omnibus compared to the size of this Thundercats collection. It is massive. It's not, I thought it would be standard omnibus size when they announced it, or at least something close, but they've maxed out the dimensions in multiple ways. Kind of is art book sized in a way. So I was kind of surprised by that. But yeah, what's included is the 24 issues of the Marvel Star Comics Thundercats comic. It's got a cool introduction by Larry Kenney, neat little foreword by Mike Carlin, who was the editor on the book at the time. There was a lot of good talent on this. We had David Michelini, Jerry Conway, Tom DeFalco, Steve Perry, Dwight John Zimmerman, Laura Hitchcock, Daryl Edmond, and James Rose on writing, Jim Mooney, Jose Delbo, Ernie Colin, Dwayne Turner, and Rodney Ramos on art. And this was a fun read, because I'd never read these before. And it's because I had really low quality scans was the only way to read them for the longest time. It's their first collection. I found this to be a fun read, though a little frustrating at times, because the first couple issues are essentially the first couple episodes. It's the whole Exodus, you gotta leave Thundera, get to Third Earth, the time capsules and all that. That's kind of what the first issue is, basically the first 2 episodes. And then the second issue is essentially the 3rd episode. And so I enjoy comics like that. It's fun to see adaptations. For me, I was like, is there going to be any news stories? And there was news stories, actually starting with issue number 3. Issue 3 was a brand new story, and then it goes all the way up, I think, to issue 12. Then it starts alternating. Then there's some issues that are news stories. There's some that are, adaptations of episodes, starting with 13. Because 13 is an adaptation episode. The thing is, you can tell because it'll have written down here, see, based on the original teleplay by Peter Lawrence, that means this issue is an episode adaptation. And again, those are fine. They're just not as exciting to me. And so basically, I think in total, about 12 of the 24 issues are brand new stories, and the other 12 are that's an episode. That's the Pumra episode. So some of them are old, some of them are new. I do wish it was all new stories, but that was just the way they did the comics back in the day. It is really cool to have as a collection. They even threw in some extras in the back here, and then just advertising the modern Dynamite Thundercats comics. But I think it was just really cool to have this collection, and I'm pretty happy with it. I will say the restoration quality varies. You can see, this looks really good, and then some of these other issues look a little rough. I don't know what materials they had to work with. I don't know what Marvel kept from their kids-focused imprint in the 80s for Dynamite to work with, but I think it's pretty good overall. So if you are wanting these comics, this is a nice edition. Like I said, they're also supposed to be doing 2 paperback editions of this, because the hardcovers what is it, $100, I want to say, or is it $125? It was $100 when I bought it for the backer kit, but then, you know, prices went up, so it does list it at $125, maybe a little high. I would get it on sale. The comics, not necessarily that great. Like I said, I did do the backer kit, so I got bonuses. So here's a Mark Spears Lion-O cover and a Mum-Ra. I'm actually kind of forgetting at the moment what the comic is inside, because I'm not sure. Oh, it's the modern Dynamite Thundercats comic, which I enjoy, and actually has been improving a whole lot recently. I didn't like it at first. I felt it was a little retready, but they've really done some cool stuff there. So that's basically what those are, variant covers. And then these were the stretch goals, which the stretch goals ended up being these animation model sheets. So there's like Lion-O and Chitara and Panthro. So pretty cool. It's nice to get kind of like recreations of that on a good photo stock. So yeah, if it's something that you're looking at, you know, I do recommend the book from a quality perspective. I think big hardcover, like I said, bigger than an omnibus, and then the pages are really nice. They're super thick, so you're not going to worry about any quality on it. It's just going to be, is this something you want to get? For me, definitely. Love Thundercats. But for others, yeah, that price is a little steep, at least for the hardcover. Maybe the paperbacks are more affordable. All right, the next Universal Monsters comic from Skybound, The Mummy, has hit trade hardcover. I don't know if they do paperbacks for these yet, but they did do hardcover. This is fantastic. This is Faith Erin Hicks and Lee Luffridge on The Mummy. And these Universal Monsters comics are interesting. You'll get, sometimes there'll be sequels, like the Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. Sometimes there'll be retellings, like Dracula and Frankenstein. Sometimes they may even be a different connection, like their Invisible Man comic that just wrapped up. Invisible Man was fantastic. This is also excellent, because this is a retelling of the original Mummy movie from a different perspective. And I really enjoyed this. You know, one of the things that people discuss with the original Universal Monster movies is that The Mummy wasn't the best one of those original films. This is a great take on the story, and I think this is just excellent. There is a reason why the Brendan Fraser Mummy became like the predominant one in pop culture, because the original Boris Karloff film just doesn't quite have it. Like the others, but loving these. I love the consistency on the spines as well, because that way you have like a consistent thing. What I also like, and I didn't realize this until I was noticing these in the comic shop, I got the direct market covers for all of these. These are the direct market variant covers that go to comic book specific shops, not bookstores, but they use the thumbnail image of what the standard cover is on the spine, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if you haven't checked these out and you love the classic monsters, absolutely recommend all of these. Mummy is pretty great. Invisible Man, particularly amazing, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when the trade comes in a couple months. All right, so there's gonna be some random stuff. My comic shop had a Black Friday sale. One of the things was that there was like trades and hardcovers 50% off, so I grabbed Rogue Sun Volume 3. This is part of the Massive Verse. This is the second longest running series in the Massive Verse, Rogue Sun. This is Volume 3 of it. I really enjoyed this series. I've been, buying it in singles, so I decided to just kind of pick up the trade because I have the first two. They're kind of like I toss them into an order if I need to get to like free shipping on something or I see a sale. I'm hoping they get hardcovers eventually, like Radiant Black is getting, because those hardcovers are really nice. But yeah, Rogue Sun, it's really fun. It's about, there's a guy whose father was a superhero, and after his father dies, he inherits his father's superhero powers, and then starts to discover that there was a whole legacy of the Rogue Sun that dates back, and not all of them were the best people. All right, from Dark Horse, we got The Serpent in the Garden, Ed Grey, and the Last Battle for England. This is part of the Hellboy universe. This is another Sir Edward Grey Witchfinder miniseries. There's been a couple of these since the Witchfinder series ended, but this is just kind of another like fun adventure in the old times. Connects in with the Hellboy universe and some of the other wacky characters. I enjoy these. I find that a lot of these miniseries in a bubble are just kind of quick, fun reads, which I really do enjoy. Mike Mignola wrote this one as well, which is also really cool to see, because he wasn't writing comics for a while, but he's back doing it. For me, I usually pick up the Omnibus editions of the Hellboy universe stuff, which is the thicker books, but when they do a standard hardcover, I just kind of go with like, okay, maybe they're not planning to do an omnibus of those. So I've just been kind of picking these up. They're fun. They're really fun. I found that like the Hellboy universe as a whole, when they're doing the long story arcs for BPRD, sort of my interest waned after a certain point, just because it's like, how long is this going on for? It was interesting to do an ongoing like that, but it started to get lengthy. Whereas I really enjoy like Hellboy stories when it's sort of like, here's this is 3 issues, plus an epilogue that's exclusive to this. I kind of enjoy them when they are short form, because I think that kind of sort of ups the poignancy of everything. There is certainly something to say about the long form stuff, but I found that of the Hellboy universe, I do enjoy the shorter form series quite a bit more. Like Shadow of the Golden Crane. This is a Hellboy universe series. Hellboy is on the cover. He is in this one. This was done by Chris Robertson and Michael Avon Oming, but it actually focuses on this character, which is Su Zheng. This is a 1960s BPRD case with Hellboy and the BPRD. You can kind of float that into the Hellboy and BPRD banner. Love the art in this. Really love the art style. Just has a bright, fun feel to it. And this is a really cool story. It kind of breaks down barriers of time and lineage and goes through sort of some really cool stories. And it's all like focused around the mystery of this golden crane. Again, it's just like I really love the short form storytelling in the Hellboy universe quite a bit. And this is no different. This was definitely a fun adventure for sure. All right, Turtles of Grayskull. This is a 4-issue miniseries by Team Seeley and Freddie E. Williams II. This is a tie-in to the Turtles of Grayskull toy line, which is a crossover between He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And this comic is a little weird because there was mini comics included with the toys for the Turtles of Grayskull, and those are canon to this comic, but they don't reprint them here in case you don't have the toys. I think they could have done for reprinting the mini comics here, because what they do is they kind of just drop you in, and like there's the Turtles in their He-Man armor, and then they give you a recap page, which is nice, but I feel like you could have just added like the 8 or 12 pages of mini comics into the front of this. That would have made the story a little bit cleaner. That being said, the story is also kind of crazy because they're popping through dimensions, they're going through time, they're jumping between universes, all the kind of crazy stuff happens. It's a fun, like, Saturday morning read. It's not, like, the best. They don't really explore the characters too deep in this. This is mostly, like, a big action set-piece comic. And that's fun. I enjoy that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I found it funny. I was like, oh, it actually does follow from the mini comics that came with the toys, which is not something you usually see. Usually these are a little bit more standalone, but you can still read it. It gives you a recap. You're still going to be a little bit confused throughout the whole thing just because of all the dimension hopping, but I enjoy it. It was fun. All right, we got Sonic the Hedgehog, the IDW Collection, Volume 5. This came out quite a bit ago. I was waiting for it to go on sale, because typically these do drop in price. I think the only one of these, the IDW Collection in general, I bought the last Turtles one, like, at release, because I was just like, I just want to finish the set. This is going to contain 41 to 50 of Sonic the Hedgehog, as well as the Imposter Syndrome miniseries. I got Dr. Starline on the cover, who's one of the original comics. Sorry for blinding you with the end sheets there. My eyes bug out every time that happens. But yeah, this is the next arcs of the comic, featuring the... What's their name? I was going to say Fatal 5, but that's a Legion of Superheroes team. Savage 6? Is it their name, Savage 6? Anyways, the villains from Sonic Lost World. More Dr. Starline shenanigans, more storylines expanding. If you've been reading the Sonic IDW stuff, which the best way to do it is in these hardcovers, honestly, because they just put everything together. Minor reading continuity hiccups here and there, but for the most part, pretty solid. Yeah, this is really good. This is really good stuff. This also introduces Surge and Kitsune, 2 new characters that have been major players in this. And for those wondering the mapping, there is the table of contents page. It puts the 4-issue Imposter Syndrome miniseries between 49 and 50 of Sonic the Hedgehog, which I think is fine, because 50 is kind of where that all comes together. But yeah, I think it's kind of a good spot to place it overall. But yeah, these hardcovers are great. So if you're looking to read the Sonic IDW stuff, they're awesome. Just don't look at the spines, because for some reason a bunch of them don't match, unlike Turtles. All right, moving on to Marvel, we're going to start with the new releases, like the Doctor Strange Epic Collection, Strangers Among Us, which actually is the only epic I got this time. I got a lot of epics last time, so that's fine. This is 90s Doctor Strange, and I don't normally collect Doctor Strange because I just don't. I mean, I like Doctor Strange, but I don't collect all of his series. So why did I pick this one up? Well, this is Volume 12 from 1984-1985. It's Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme 62-75, Annual 4, and Midnight Suns Unlimited number 6. So if you follow the channel long enough, you know I'm a huge Ghost Rider fan. And so by extension, I really did like the Midnight Suns imprint of the 90s, which was involving other characters. It was Blade and the Night Stalkers, it was Darkhold, it was Morbius, and it became Doctor Strange when I think it was Darkhold that ended. So Doctor Strange took a slot. So he's part of the Midnight Suns branding. So I was like, okay, I want all the Midnight Suns comics. After Siege of Darkness, which was in the most recent Ghost Rider Danny Ketch epic, Doctor Strange went through a transformation, and they brought him in on the Midnight Suns crossover imprint branding. So that's what this is. And this is every issue of Doctor Strange involved in the Midnight Suns initiative, except for the first 2 issues, which were part of Siege of Darkness, which I already have in the Danny Ketch epic. So this was just for me to kind of fill in the gap of the 90s Midnight Suns imprint, which of course we still need another Blade epic to fill in. We still need a couple Morbius epics, and we do need like a Darkhold epic. I don't know if we're gonna get that, but it'd be kind of neat if we did. But yeah, so I'm just kind of filling in the Midnight Suns stuff with this because this series ends, and then he's not part of the Midnight Suns branding anymore because it's over. So this is the one Doctor Strange epic I needed, and now it's done. All right, we got She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell Omnibus. This is pretty nice. She-Hulk's pretty well covered in omnibuses. We had the Dan Slott, the Peter David. They didn't do Mariko Tamaki and Charles Soule, but they did do complete paperbacks of those. Then for the classic stuff, we'll talk about that in a bit. But for the modern She-Hulk, I think if they could do like a Charles Soule, Mariko Tamaki combined omnibus, because neither of those runs are that super long, we'd have all the modern She-Hulk in omnibus, which I think is pretty cool. So you can see the spine here. I have all those. I love She-Hulk. I am very close to having all of She-Hulk solo books in trade, but we'll talk about that again in a minute. So this has She-Hulk 2022, 1-15, and Sensational She-Hulk 2023, 1-10, because after 15 issues, they just relaunched the book with the same writer. They just switched out the the artist. It was like, okay, why are we rebranding? And then it was only 10 more issues. So it's a 25-issue omnibus. What is it? $100 cover price, which I didn't pay, but, you know, it's still a $100 cover price. There's the inside artwork, which is nice. This is the standard cover. I usually go for direct market covers, but the standard cover was done by Jim Bartel, who did like all the covers for this series, whereas the variant cover was Peach Momoko, which I love Peach Momoko, but she didn't do all the variant covers, or didn't do all the main covers for the series. So I kind of like the cover of the Omni matching the series itself. This is very much a slice-of-life She-Hulk comic, which I really enjoy because I think She-Hulk works in kind of a sitcom setting quite well. She forms a romance with Jack of Hearts. She has a fight club where she's like fighting with Titania and some others, you know, hanging out with Patsy Walker. But there is drama, there is superhero action, but it's not a typical superhero format book. Also found it to be a very breezy reread because I'd read this monthly, and then when I got this omnibus in, I read the entire thing, I think, the day I got it, because it's pretty easy to read. It's a fun read. I quite enjoy it, and it's good to have it all in one collection like this. Because there's a lot of fun storylines. And then, of course, you get the variant cover gallery in the back, which is cool. And I knew this would be in here, so that way I could not worry about not having, like, the Peach Momoko cover is somewhere in here. I'm not going to spend time flipping for it, but, yeah, it's a fun book. I do recommend it. Currently, I think this was our last, like, She-Hulk book for a while. We just started Planet She-Hulk, so we'll see if that lasts long enough. But yeah, I quite enjoy this. I do recommend it. It's a fun She-Hulk read for sure. And yeah, I'm glad that it's in omnibus form. Hopefully they do like a thick trade or a modern epic or something for this for a more affordable option for a fun series overall. All right, I mentioned my comic shop's Black Friday deals, so let's get to it. We got Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk. This was half off. This was recent. I don't remember when this came out. I know this was very recent. But this was a 5-issue miniseries by Frank Thierry. Was it Frank Thierry, Michael Stamaria? This is fun. This is the kind of comic I enjoy. So it's called Sabretooth, the Dead Don't Talk. Minor spoilers for Krakoa X-Men. Sabretooth's dead. He'll be back. It's Sabretooth. He never stays dead. But the framing device here is that Wolverine, in full Hugh Jackman mode, sees a picture of Sabretooth with a newspaper article saying he was Mad Dog Murphy. And so it goes into a flashback to 1909 and onward, and shows Sabretooth as essentially part of the New York mob and sort of running it as well. Also introducing this character, Dragonfire, who's pretty cool. So it's kind of a neat like exploration of Sabretooth and kind of like how his life could have been different if things had been a little bit different overall. It's interesting, it doesn't have the normal white Marvel spine to it. It's got this fancy one because it is a flashback series. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So yeah, if you like Sabretooth and you want a little bit deeper of a character exploration, this is pretty solid for that. They also had used trade paperbacks, which are normally half off, but they had them for $5 or 5 for 20. And I saw this and said, okay, sure. This is all of the current trades for the current Earth 2099 Marvel 2099 universe. So the original 2099 universe had ended, and during the storyline in the Nick Spencer, Patrick Gleason run of Spider-Man called Amazing Spider-Man 2099, they started a new 2099 universe. And so it was like rebooted, and they started it fresh, and then they explored it through these miniseries by Steve Orlando, and they're pretty fun. I enjoy like seeing this. This first series would have like him, Spider-Man with somebody else. You got Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, for example. I've been reading these monthly since they've come out because I'm a big 2099 fan. Spider-Man 2099 is my favorite Spider-Man. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters in general. So I was reading these as they came out, and I figured they'll probably do an omnibus eventually of these modern stuff because they've been doing omnis of the classic 2099. So I was like, okay, they'll probably do a modern omnibus eventually. The next 2099 miniseries is called The End 2099, and it's like showing the end of the 2099 universe. So I figure it's going to be ending soon. But then I was like, well, there's a chance that, Marvel's supposedly shook up their publishing strategy. This second one, Dark Genesis, is all like symbiote stuff and Carnage and all that. Who knows? Maybe they actually won't do an omnibus for these. Like, I'm thinking they will, but am I thinking in how Marvel was and not how Marvel is now? I don't know for sure. And then, I could spend $20 and get all these trades, which means if there is an omnibus, I didn't overspend on double dipping to then triple dip. So that's just kind of how I feel. This one was cool. The Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man series. This one had like Werewolf by Night 2099 and Frankenstein 2099 and Dracula. So it's like brought in some of the monsters, man thing. And then they started doing an Annihilation, which Annihilation is a famous Marvel cosmic storyline. So they started doing that. Introduced Nova, some other characters like a Silver Surfer of the 2099 universe, which is pretty cool. And then it had Conquest, which was the sequel to that, which involved a bunch of other crazy stuff. They got a new X-Men 2099 going on. And then it kind of led into a Worlds Will Collide. And then the end 2099 is like this universe colliding with like Age of Apocalypse and stuff. So should be fun when that comes out. But at least for now, I've got all the trades in case an Omni never happens. All right, so I don't collect Marvel Masterworks, which is part of why Marvel Masterworks is going on hiatus, which is a bummer because I know how it is for a format you enjoy to just blip out of existence. So first of all, my heart goes out to Marvel Masterworks collectors. Second of all, I'm sorry I didn't buy these more. They're just not my format. I own one other Masterwork, which is the first Fantastic Four volume, because Masterworks are these really high-quality classic era collections of Marvel that reprint their stories in really high-quality paper, the highest quality like scans and restoration work, and they're beautiful. I think Masterworks are absolutely fantastic. And they've been going on, I think, since the 90s. They've been running a long time, but they put them on hiatus because they're not selling as well. And the reason they're not selling as well is because this Champions volume, which is the 17-issue Champions series plus this bonus stuff, that thickness of a book, this had a $100 cover price. And that $100 cover price is not recent. That's a $100 cover price in 2015. That's why Masterworks is on hiatus. The price just became too expensive for the amount of content. Like, you have this, which is essentially an Epic Collection page count, but it's $100 in 2015. This would be like $150 now or something. This is, it just, for me, I always saw the quality in Masterworks, but I didn't see the price value when, like, they were omnibus price, but they were only, a small part of the story. And so for me, I just never collected them. And I also started so late that, it just wouldn't happen. That's why Masterworks on hiatus. Anyways, long story short, I got the Champions 1/2 off of the cover price. So I got it for $50, which isn't too bad. Champions is a team with Hercules, Ghost Rider, Angel, Iceman, and Black Widow. Obviously, a big Ghost Rider fan. I really like Hercules, X-Men, and then Black Widow's there. So I wanted to have this series, and I thought, okay, eventually they'll probably just turn this into an Epic collection because Champions only lasted 17 issues plus some additional team-ups. And I thought, okay, sure, they'll eventually do like an Epic of it. But then my comic shop had a copy of this, and it wasn't moving, and I was like, maybe eventually it'll go on sale. And so it did, and so I bought it, because now I have all of the Champions in one go. Because they didn't include any of the Champions issues in the Ghost Rider Epic collection line, because the Ghost Rider Epics are like the Ghost Rider Masterworks, and don't include it. So that's why I got the Champions in Masterwork. But rest in peace, Masterworks. I hope they can at least finish. I know there was a couple series that were like one volume away from being finished, and if I was Marvel, I'd at least throw out those just to satisfy the customer base. And then my last pickup was the Savage She-Hulk Omnibus. This is actually the direct market cover. This is, I wasn't sure if I was going to get this. For similar reasons to the Champions, I thought, okay, these are the first 25 issues plus a Marvel 2-in-1 issue. These will be collected in Epic Collection, right? The Sensational era starts at Volume 3. So this is going to be Volumes 1 and 2 of the Epics. So I didn't want to buy an Omni because I was like, well, the Epics might be cheaper. Epics have gone up in price, right? Some of them are $60 now. So when I could get this, which was, what is this? $100 cover price, I got it for $50? Yeah, for $50, I just got the entirety of Savage She-Hulk in Omni, which is fine with me. I'm not like a format completionist a lot of times. Sometimes I'm a little pickier. And so like now I got the original classic Savage She-Hulk. This was before they reinvented the character and made her really fun. This is more of, she's green monster smashing things. Also like that they added in some stuff. Like they had the letters pages. They have these like little like behind the scenes things. Like there's definitely stuff in here that wouldn't make it to the Epic collection. So yeah, I was like, all right, let me pick it up. It's worth getting. Ironically, I do now have all the She-Hulk Omnis except for the Sensational She-Hulk by John Byrne, which I have no interest in because it's only the John Byrne issues, which means it jumps around. I just, if Marvel makes She-Hulk Epic 5, which has the last of the John Byrne issues, I'll have every She-Hulk solo comic in Omni or paperback. And that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about that. Let's switch over to DC with We 3. That kind of rhymed. That was fun. I did a video recently on the DC Compact comics, and I went through all of them, and I admitted that I'd never read We 3. And a couple commenters had said, you might enjoy it if you like Grant Morrison, which I do. Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. And I had some people recommend it, and so guess what? Comic Shop had it. Guess what was 50% off for Black Friday? I only spent $5 on those. That's perfect. So it's only my second compact I've gotten. This one's a lot shorter than Far Sector. I only got Far Sector because I love Far Sector. But this is about 3 animals who are engineered to be weapons of war, and then they break out. That's basically the story. It's a 3-issue series. It's pretty grisly. Just a fair warning. What's kind of cool to right out the page count, they put all the behind-the-scenes stuff from the deluxe edition in the back here, which I think is awesome. But yeah, I'd never read this before, and for $5, I was like, why not? And for $10 even, yeah, if you like roboticized war animals breaking out of the facility they're in and fighting back, this might be for you. But be prepared. It is not the happiest of tales, but yeah, I actually can recommend this. It also, like one of the commenters said, not a mind-bending Grant Morrison tale, pretty straightforward one, which is nice and different. All right, we got Brave and the Bold, Volume 3, Demons and Dragons. This is just continuing. They did this series of reprints for Brave and the Bold that's essentially just the old trades brought back to print, which is interesting. But this is the last of Mark Waid's issues on this series, and then you got Jerry Ordway and Scott Collins on art. These were fun stories. What's interesting is this only contains 3 issues of Brave and the Bold, because it's like finishing up the Mark Waid part of it, and then Mark Waid included some stories that inspired his issues in the back here, so there's some classic stuff. I'm hoping this continues, like this reprint plan, because I would like to see the rest of the series get reprinted, because I do like some of the other stuff coming up after this. So we'll see if they continue. I hope they do. It's still weird they did this instead of just doing like a thick trade of the 18 issues or something, but, you know, publishers trying things. Always try new things. Like crossing over Sonic and DC. DC cross Sonic the Hedgehog. Really fun. They did a bunch of toys for this, which I still need to take a look at in a video because I picked them up. But this is a crossover between, DC and Sonic the Hedgehog. It takes place on different worlds. It's got all kinds of cool adventures going on, some neat crossovers. The Sonic characters become the Justice League for a bit, which is fun. It ends on a teaser cliffhanger, thinking that we could get possibly another series, and we're getting more products, so that's probably happening. But yeah, I would highly recommend checking this out. If you enjoy these characters, Ian Flynn wrote this. He understands the Sonic characters so well. And I do recommend it. It's a nice 5-issue series with some really great artwork. Really fun times. If you enjoy the 2 casts, you'll enjoy this comic. Green Arrow, Volume 4, Freshwater Kills. This is the all-in Green Arrow title, which is continuing from the DC, was it Donna DC? The spine changed because all the titles for the all-in era have different spines, but that's fine because this is the start of the Chris Condon and Montos run on Green Arrow. This is issues 18 to 24, plus the Green Arrow story from Green Arrow 17, which sets up the series, because Green Arrow 17 was a split issue. It had the last of Joshua Williamson's run and the beginning of Chris Condon's run. So you got that, and then you go into this. So it's a perfect clean break if you want to jump into this. Williamson's Green Arrow was a little bit more bright and fun, very Arrow family focused, whereas Condon's going for a much more grounded, much more a grittier take on the character. But I feel like it flows naturally from one into another, but it is nice that we have a clean break between them. This is fantastic, and unfortunately its last issue I think comes out this month. It ended because the sales didn't keep up, which is a bummer, but I do highly recommend it. This is the beginning of it. I think there's, let's see, this goes up to 24. Yeah, there's going to be 2 volumes in total, so Volume 5 will be the end of it. But yeah, good stuff. This gets really into like Oliver Queen being like the hero for the people, which I always appreciate. All right, let's shift over to DC Finest. We got Super Friends, The Fury of the Super Froze. I just picked this up for fun. I'm not even sure if I'm going to read this entire thing. One of the things sometimes you don't necessarily need to buy books and read them to completion. I didn't finish DC Finest Horror. I read a chunk of it, but then I just kind of felt like I wasn't vibing with it as much as I thought, because the horror anthology was just, here's a bunch of horror stories, but there's not like continuing characters in them, and I guess I just didn't like it as much. This is the tie-in to the Super Friends cartoon. So it's going to be kind of like a little bit more standalone stories, but I kind of like standalone superhero team-up stories because I get kind of tired of long arcs at times. So a book like this can actually be really fun. This has the first 26 issues plus some other stories with them. We got the Wonder Twins here. I've also heard that this is a little bit more mature than the Super Friends cartoon because it's a comic. They didn't have the broadcast standards and officially being like considered an educational show, so there's more supervillains to deal with. I think it's cool, and the creative team is pretty solid on it. Ramona Frandon doing stuff is always great. I'm looking forward to just reading this kind of casually. Will I finish the entire thing? Who knows, but I'm going to enjoy checking it out nonetheless. Here's the surprising one of the month. DC Finest War, the Big 5 arrive. This is a collection of DC's war titles from January 1957 to April 1957, which that's the first time we've gotten months, because there's so many dang war comics in the 50s. A bunch of them were published by DC, a bunch of them were brought over from Quality Comics. So this is basically, the Big 5 arrive, I think, is referencing that DC became established. Yeah, that's what it is. With the acquisition of the Quality Comics catalog, DC established itself as the war comics publisher with the Big 5 war titles. It's not the title of... Big 5 Arrive is not the title of the stories, but it's just the fact that DC's got the Big 5 war titles. Our Army at War, Our Fighting Forces, All American Men of War, GI Combat, and Star Spangled War stories. These don't include Sergeant Rock. Sergeant Rock will get his own his own DC Finest later. Wow, long video. But this is, what's cool about this and what I enjoyed about this and what I have been enjoying, all the stories are super short. So you can see up here, here is, Our Army at War 54, which has these 4 stories. And so you can see that, like, this is only, like, 7 pages, right? And this is only, like, 6 pages, and this is only, like, 6 pages. So what you get is a bunch of short war stories. And they are, and that's why the table of contents is, like, 7 pages long. This is really fun. The interesting part about it, so it does, it is made in the 50s, which is, post-World War II, but they are World War II set stories. But, for example, that's the first story. And so they're super easy to read because you're just getting these quick, short stories. And I feel like there is, I think with the horror anthology, sometimes they ran along. These are all made to be read super quick. One of my favorites in the early part of this, which is what I started to enjoy, was the Battlestar for a Tree, which is this tree saves a soldier from being killed. So he marks that he was on the tree. And then it flashes back to the previous time this tree saved somebody in a war. And then he marked it, and then he marked it, and it goes back and back and back. And I think it's just a cool concept of, like, here's the, almost the scars of war throughout time, which I thought was really interesting and kind of neat. There's some other really cool stories in this. The interesting part, though, is it does always only show, like, the Allied forces. It never shows their enemies. It never shows the Nazis. It never shows the Axis forces as characters. They are simply in as, just people. They're just there as essentially just the enemy. But then when you switch over to another title, which includes, because there's some other stuff here, because we got Black Hawk in here as well. When you get to Black Hawk has a continuing set of the characters with the Black Hawks, and they show the villains. And then the villains get very stereotypy very quickly, because it's still 1957. So it's an interesting perspective, because you have Black Hawk, which kind of runs a little bit more superhero formula-like, where it's like, here's the heroes, and they're fighting in this war, and then here's the villains. Whereas comics like All American Men of War, it's just about the American soldiers in the war. So it is interesting. It does, somewhat, at times it does, border on that, is it military propaganda type thing. But in a lot of ways, it is kind of a more innocent look at war. It doesn't go into the depths as much, but it does show some of the kind of experiences. Like there's this one story about a kid who used to play, like he was in a war at home, and then he was remembering that when he was in real war, and it wasn't as fun as it was when he was on the farm. That kind of stuff is what it's in. This is a book I pick up and read when I want to read something short and quick. You can see I'm in the middle of an issue, because it doesn't, doesn't connect, doesn't tie forward as much. It's just quick, and you jump in and you see what happens, and yeah, I think it's kind of enjoyable for that. If you like war stories from that period, I found it really interesting. It's a lot more engaging than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, great artwork, really interesting stories. Interesting from a historical perspective more than anything at that point. It is definitely not the kind of war comic you would make nowadays. It is definitely of its time, and I think it's interesting to see how each book is a little bit different at portraying the war that, at the time, was not that long ago. All right, so we got the World's Greatest Superheroes, Justice League. I picked this up at my comic shop, 50% off sale. This is a collection of Alex Ross and Paul Dini one-shot graphic novels that sort of have a continuing legacy. You've probably seen artwork from these at some point because, first of all, it's Alex Ross, and second of all, they're very iconic. These came out in the late 90s. They'd always start with these splash pages of the characters' origins, which Alex Ross did again with Fantastic Four Full Circle recently. But this is basically, it's called Superman. Like this first one is Superman Peace on Earth, and it's, Superman takes place during Christmas, has the character, sort of goes through what is the essence of the character, and some beautiful artwork. Batman War on Crime, same thing. Kind of just, it's supposed to be the essence of each of these characters, and I think it's really cool. We got one with Captain Marvel, Shazam here, with Billy Batson. They're just beautiful. There's these beautiful, beautiful stories. These originally were printed at tabloid size. There's Wonder Woman. I love the Wonder Woman one in particular. These were printed at like tabloid size, which was much bigger than this. This is like slightly wider than a standard trade because of the format, right? It's like a little bit bigger than a normal trade, but not like gigantic. But I think it also makes it kind of easier to read than the original tabloid size. I have the Wonder Woman in the in the big old size, and it's a little bit unwieldy. This is a pretty cool paperback. It's pretty recent if you can find it, but really nice if you want to check out these stories. I think this is a good collection to have them all in one go. All right, we got Catwoman Lonely City by Cliff Chiang. This was picked up at my local comic shop by recommendation from another fellow patron of the shop. And he said that, basically like, yeah, check this out, because I was wondering, is this any good? This is a DC Black Label title, which was their alternate universe mature rated stories. This is a story about Catwoman in a world where Batman and the Joker are both dead and have been for 10 years. And so now you have, Selina in the future going through her life, and then also trying to pull off a heist. And so it becomes a heist movie vibe. It's got a neo-noir futurism kind of art style to it. And it kind of goes into what happened, how the characters evolved, where they go. Thought it was excellent. Cliff Chiang, Cliff Chiang wrote this as well. Cliff Chiang is like an artist that I think is always fantastic. Yeah, and Cliff Chiang also wrote this. Excellent stuff. If you like Selina, if you like Catwoman stories, especially like Catwoman stories where she's not saddled by being a Batman supporting character, this is definitely a good one for that. Do recommend this one. Quite good. Really liked it. Speaking of Batman and Catwoman, we got Batman Ego, the deluxe edition. This is Batman Ego and Other Tales. That's not tales like a story, tales like a cat. This is essentially just a deluxe edition of Darwin Cook's basically one-shot work with Batman and Catwoman. So this is a reprint of an older book, but they updated it and they added more to it on this modern reprinting, which I think is really fun. So inside here, so there's the table of contents. Yeah, we got Batman Ego, which was a graphic novel. You got the Here Be Monsters, which is from Batman Gotham Knights 23. Some covers, Catwoman Selina's Big Score, which was also in the Catwoman of East End Omnibus. So that was a double up for me. Then you got stories from Batman Gotham Knights 33, and then some extra stories. You got Batman the Spirit #1, and the Harley Quinn Holiday Special #1, plus some other covers. And this is basically like a big old tribute to the awesome work of Darwin Cook. Batman Ego is about Batman facing himself. He has to face himself, and that's hence Ego, which I think is great. And then there's some other bonus backup stories as well. You get the Spirit crossover, you get a Harley Quinn story. It's a collection of, Darwin Cook at his best with these characters, and I can highly recommend it. If you're like me and you have the Catwoman of East End Omnibus, probably want to wait for a sale. This had a cover price of $40. I picked it up once it hit sale price. I think I got it for like $22 or something like that. That worked for me because it was duplicating on some of the Catwoman, but good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, here's the big boy, Superman Triangle Era Omnibus Volume 2. This came out a couple months ago. I think I hit up a sale, just a little extra discount on top of the normal discounted price. We got a nice cover here. I don't think this is a redraw like the first Triangle Era Omnibus cover was. I think this is just a remastering. But this is another big chunk of 90s Superman for the Triangle Era, which for those that don't know it, I should explain it one more time in case you haven't been keeping up with the comic hauls, because I mentioned this when I got Volume 1. This is Superman, Adventures of Superman, Action Comics, and Superman the Man of Steel. 4 titles playing interconnected together with these little numbers. So these little triangle numbers, you can see it says 1992-6 on this issue. And then the next issue in the book it's actually ironic timing because that's a Christmas issue to start. The next issue in here will say 1992-7 because the books basically became weekly Superman books. They had different creative teams, but they were working in conjunction under Mike Carlin as an editor, and so they all interconnect, and they're all laid out by those numbers. I love the Triangle Era. What's really cool about the Triangle Era is you can have one-shot stories, but the supporting cast continues. And you can build storylines over time. And I think it was a really smart way. And reading it is a blast because the triangle numbering means you don't have to take a guess when each issue takes place. And I think that's awesome. Also, this happens. Yeah, this is going up through the death of Superman and the funeral for a friend. And this is basically a little point of contention with people, which I understand. There's a Death and Return of Superman omnibus that's been around for a while. And people were wondering if this was going to map around that Death and Return or just include it. But DC has decided just to include it. Now, I didn't pick up the Death and Return Omnibus, so I'm kind of good with it being included. Which means, yes, the back part of this does contain the Death of Superman. It does contain the Funeral for a Friend. It does contain the News Time Life and Death of Superman newspaper facsimile. This is cool. And then, so I'm assuming Volume 3 will have, of course, the Return of Superman, and then it'll go into new stuff as well. I'm kind of splitting it across the books, but it does have a full chronological Triangle era thing going on. Also, here's a picture of the spines next to each other. For me, I got a later printing of Triangle Omni 1, so that means I have the DC Bullet logo instead of the circular DC logo like some people had. But I love that they're very consistent on the spines, and I hope that keeps up with however many books this is going to be, because it's probably going to be like 5 or 6. So DC was just coming for my wallet this month with omnibuses. And this is also a little bit of late October, early November. Point is, we got some omnis. Like Jonah Hex, All-Star Western. Highly recommend this. If you love Western comics, pick this up, because my goodness, it's our first ever Jonah Hex omnibus. The Jonah Hex, Bounty Hunter of the Old West. They have done a lot of Jonah Hex comics over the years, but there hasn't been anything recently because Western comics don't sell well, because the Western genre in general just doesn't sell well. Look how beautiful that spine is. My God. That is one of the coolest spines I've ever seen on an omnibus or a book at all. The way that they just blended the artwork together, and you just have Hex there and then the logo. It's beautiful. This book is amazing. So this is Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti working on Jonah Hex. They previously had a run in the 2000s that lasted 70 issues, but was cut off by the New 52 relaunch of DC. This is the New 52 relaunch, known as All-Star Western. So this has issues 0 to 34, which is the entirety of the All-Star Western series. I think they start with that because they could put it all in one book. If we were to get omnis of the previous stuff they did, it would have to go over 2, because there were 70 issues. And I hope they do that, because I really, really like this. This was kind of a good test run, because Jonah Hex, excellent character. Love this character. He's so grumpy. He's such a dick, but I enjoy his experiences because he's kind of got that nonchalant attitude that I really appreciate. Other thing I appreciate is that All-Star Western, true to the name from the Silver Age of All-Star Western, did have a Jonah Hex story, and then they had backup stories. And these backup stories featured characters like El Diablo, the Barbary Ghost, Nighthawk and Cinnamon, Batlash, Dr. Terrence 13, Tomahawk, Stormwatch, and Madam 44. And instead of having these backup stories, you know, where they were in publishing order, and so you'd be doing a Hex story, then a Barbary Ghost story, they did instead put all the Hex stories first for the first 840 pages. Then they added the El Diablo stories together, the Barbary Ghost stories together. So that way it's a very clean reading experience. Thank you, whoever was editing this book, because this is fantastic. I also do like that they do mention that there was a previous Jonah Hex series, and they go into the history of how this book came to be. Now, the reason why they do publish this one, I think that with this one, not just because it could be all in one, it's because Jonah Hex spends time in Gotham City, and in Gotham City, in the New 52, it starts to involve other characters, like the Court of Owls, for example, going back into their history. He's also hanging out with Amadeus Arkham, you know, Arkham as in the Asylum guy. So there's a lot of connections there. There's, you know, crossovers with Nighthawk and Cinnamon. There's a lot of amazing stories. It's crazy, it's grisly, it's exciting, it's adventurous. You never know where it's going to go. And I absolutely appreciate this. There's also some fun time travel stuff, because true to Jonah Hex's experiences in the past, he's dealt with time travel, so he hangs out with Booster Gold for a bit. There is so many cool stories in this. If you've never read it and you love Western stories, you could blind buy this. It's that good. So excited this is out. I hope this sold well. I really want to see the rest of the Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray, Jonah Hex stuff, because it's the best Western comics around, in my eyes. DC did not stop there. Secret Six by Gail Simone Omnibus Volume 2. Thank you, DC. We didn't have to wait too long for this. We got Volume 1 last year, got Volume 2 this year. Secret Six is the story of 6 villains who want to do better and end up forming a tight family bond. We got Catman, we got Scandal Savage, we got Jeanette, we got Bane, we got Ragdoll, we've got Deadshot, and then they added Black Alice in this volume. This cover is brand new, drawn by Nicholas Scott. You can see members of the Justice League are aiming their weapons at the Secret Six, 'cause that's very iconic in the series. Beautiful spine work. Here's a picture of this spine next to the Secret Six Omnibus Volume 1. Beautiful spine work. If you have a team book, do something like this every single time. I absolutely love it. So this contains the rest of the Secret Six series that started in Omnibus 1, which is 17 to 36, plus the Secret Six series from the New 52, all 14 issues of that, and appropriate crossover storytelling as well. Just finished reading this the other day. It's excellent. It's so good. It is everything that the Suicide Squad movies try to be. And sometimes the Suicide Squad movies pull things from Secret Six. Like Suicide Squad Hell to Pay pulls the Get Out of Hell Free card story from Secret Six. It is that good. This is what every Suicide Squad story seems to be trying to do, is Secret Six. I cannot recommend this enough. I highly recommend checking it out in whatever form you can. I hope it gets more formats as well, because I just love that they take these characters and make them so human. I can never look at Bane the same way again, because he feels like such a person in this. And when they make him a villain after, it just doesn't feel right, because I felt like I knew Bane as a person, not just as an evil monster. Also, Catman. Weird to say, Catman's one of my favorite DC characters. Also, the book gets pretty violent. It's hard to flip through. I love it. So happy it's out. I can't believe it. It's just so great. It's so great. We got all the Secret Six. All the Secret Six in Omnibus. And as promised, the coolest Omnibus cover I have ever seen. The Spectre by John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake, Omnibus Volume 1. First of all, hey DC, I love you. Appreciate the books you gave me, but I did not need to have to pay for 2 Omnis on the same day, because the Spectre and Secret Six were released the same exact day. You can 1 Omni a week, please. I know it's a very weird intersection of characters, but like that hurt the budget a little bit, okay? But we're fine. We're moving forward. Looking forward to Warlord. Anyways, this is the coolest Omnibus cover I have ever seen. And yes, first of all, the Spectre surrounded by skulls is one thing. That's amazing, right? It's so cool. It's the coolest. That's not what makes it the coolest. That is what makes it the coolest cover ever, because the Spectre series from the 90s was so well known for its glow-in-the-dark covers and promotional images, they made the cover glow-in-the-dark. And the fact that it actually works is amazing, because, you know, it's kind of tricky to do glow-in-the-dark stuff, yet there it is. There it's glowing, looking amazing. That's not even the coolest part about this. See, because the fact is, they didn't just do the front cover, they also did the spine. And the spine itself is also really good, but then you turn the lights off, and there's the Spectre glowing at you in the middle of the night, which is kind of cool. But by far the coolest part about this cover is the back, because the back cover, once again, looks amazing with the Spectre and all these people in a crowd. But what happens when you turn the lights off on this one? Yes, there is a hidden image for the Spectre. This is the coolest Omnibus cover of all time. And then on top of all that, in addition to having the coolest dust jacket ever, you have these amazing Tom Mandrake covers on here. The comic itself is spectacular. So this is the first half of The Spectre by Ostrander and Mandrake. This is, issues 1 through 31. So hopefully we're getting a second one that will finish up the rest of the series. Seems like DC's been doing that lately. If they do a Volume 1, a Volume 2 is not too far behind, which is nice to see. You get these incredible horror stories from the 90s. Beautiful artwork, great writing, crazy trippy mind-melding stuff. I love the Spectre stories, and this is just a great continuation of what we've seen before in a grislier 90s art style. And it's one of those books that didn't feel restricted by editorial mandate, and so that just makes it all the cooler. But that cover, stories will be told about this cover for years to come. So that was the comic haul for November, which, as you can see, was quite a lot of books. Smaller haul in December. I've projected it out. I've got a couple boxes coming that are sale stuff, and then I think there's only like 4 books coming out in December I want, which is a nice breather. Stay tuned for that by hitting subscribe and the notification bell if you haven't already, and hit the like button while you're down there, because I do appreciate those things. Helps the channel grow. On that note, though, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. You can also become a channel member and get perks like early access to videos. Let's give some special shout-outs to our channel members. Special shout-out to our channel members, including Captain Tears, Spanish54, Masterman95, Forever1000, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquence, Rogue Leader 2448, Mr. Smelly Potato, Kaiju954, Cameron Meter, Patty, Infinite 1985, Tokutaku, NXT, Crestfallen Thoughts at Midnight, Taran Easton, Common Jojo, Mama, Jess Hood, Phil's Nerdyverse, Dr. Grid, Oneo Nichon, David Johnson, Alt Mode Archive, Rivers, Common Pikachu, Jamie's World, Showbiz, NCNA, Mick M, Basil Expedition, Vlade, Kyle Birdwell, Alice James, and Doge9789. Thank you all for your support. If you still watch them on social media, on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You also find Water Graph Designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can find Hero Club at HeroClub.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see ya in the probably smaller next haul.